Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands, Ancestry Lands. We're going to get right to it. Here's something for you young people out there. Let's ride with your Uncle Phil. Let's ride with your Uncle Phil. Let's talk for a minute. You want to have a family. You want to have children. You want to be married. And one of the biggest mistakes that you can make as a business, as a person who is looking to establish himself or herself in the world, you have to understand something. When you are starting your career, you are living your life adjusted to one income, your income. You're living your life with the habitual habits of spending your income according to all your basic needs. You might know where I'm going, but the thing that you're not going to get is where I'm going to take you and educate you on how your mindset needs to shift when you start to want more. I was thinking about this yesterday morning before I went to sleep, and it's the thing that people mess up on is when you are trying to add a wife and then you try to add a child, your income gets consumed. When you are going from high school to college to a career, you're actually producing an income that is greater than your current income when you get that degree. What ends up happening is you don't adjust for the debt or the expenses that you incur as you start to add in your life. When you have a job, you have income, you start to buy a car, you start to buy things, and you start to increase your expenditures, which means you have less income to utilize when you're operating in a single person. Well, you want to go ahead and get married? Great. So you add a spouse or a partner. Now, the only thing that helps make this somewhat of a not too much of a problem is when your spouse starts to add an income as well. Now you got two incomes. See what I mean? But the thing is, a lot of young people, when they're starting out in business or starting out in life, when they're starting out in their career, their finances, they're not thinking about the fact that, hey, I'm about to add another expense to my life. Because what ends up happening, you end up getting married or you end up being in a relationship. You're either going to live together and then you're eventually going to buy a house. Well, the house comes in the hundreds of thousands of dollars as far as an expense. Not right away, but over time, right? So then you say, okay, great, let's get married. Let's add another expense. Again, this is not anything to do with changing of your income. You don't change your income, but you increase your expenses. You see where I'm getting at this now? So what do you do next? You add a child. A child does not produce any income. And actually, a child doesn't produce anything at all. A child is a 100% expense to your income. So when you're a man, you want to get married, you want to have a wife, you want to settle down, if that's even what you want to do. Or you want to have children. You decide that you want to, have sex with a woman. You want to be with the woman. You decide that, hey, I don't need protection. I'm, big King Kong dingling jingling. And now I'm going to go in here and spray it all up. Now all of a sudden she's pregnant. You want to have a baby, but you haven't thought about how you can support this child, because immediately when you have that baby, you now have to pay for things that you do not normally pay for in your life. You don't wear diapers. Well, maybe some of you do, but now you have to pay for diapers. The baby's food needs have to be paid. You have to pay them. The woman's maternity leave. Yes, you do get some PTO or state income, but it's not a relevant income now that you have this increased expense. So what ends up happening is people start getting together and they have not addressed the elephant in the room, the income velocity. Your income has not increased. What's happened is your expenses have increased. And that's where the problems lie. There is no secret to why marriage's number one divorce is finances, money. And the reason being is that a lot of people do not sit down and talk about how do we increase our finances, our financial income to mitigate or balance out our expenses that we have. Because she wants a child, but she's not thinking about the finances. She's talking to you about, give me a baby. I want the baby. But what ends up happening is once the baby comes, the financial part of her comes back into play. And you have not accounted for that. So let's just say you got a $50,000 job right now. You basically have $2,000 a month. Let's just say your average rent is about $2,000 a month. That's $24,000. That's $26,000 just off your gross that you have to operate on the living expenses with. Now, if you don't have an increase to your income, let's say you get with another woman or you get with a woman and she has the same amount of money, $50,000 that you do. Okay, well now, let's just put that in half now. That $2,000 rent is now $1,000, per person. But then she also comes with debt too. She might have student loan. She might have other expenses. So now that gets commingled in with the funds that you have. And a lot of people are living with a I'm going to say a girlfriend or boyfriend, but they are actually operating, not understanding that, hey, look at this one. Yeah, man. You see that car right behind me? Just trying to make the light, but in the middle of the actual road. I had to go over into the right lane. So now what you're doing is you're operating like roommates now. This is your bill, that's my bill, but the responsibility is to each one of you, unless you're not getting married, unless you're just living separate. But again, you're together, but you're either going to separate the expenses and they're not part of the whole expense, but you still got to pay it anyway. Because if she has this amount of debt, that means you don't have access to the funds that she has. You just cut your finances in half because she is not going to be able to prioritize the overall debt. She's going to prioritize what? Her debt. So when you don't have this discussion and you don't understand when you're getting in a relationship, you need to treat your relationship like a business. And this is where people get in the problem. You end up having children, then you end up getting into more debt. More debt, more debt. Then your lifestyle decreases because your lifestyle increases. What do I mean by that? It means that your lifestyle will increase, the demands of your lifestyle will increase, but the finances, your ability to have income, because you're not creating new income because you only have the same $50,000 job, that job is not increasing in pay for you. So if you're not making more money, then how can you battle your expenses? You can't. Your expenses start to creep up on you and they start to eat away at your actual income. When she has a child, sometimes, you have to pay. Okay, well, let's take this example. Here's another one. So, okay, you want to both work, right? So, and I see this all the time in my own neighborhood, my own life. You both want to work, then you put your kid in daycare, but the daycare is $2,000 a month. That's for one child. Then you want to have another child. Now you got two kids in daycare. Hopefully you get one in the school before you get the other kid in daycare. And again, you have not addressed the fact that your income, now don't forget now, the example I used before was that you make $50,000, she makes $50,000. So now you got $2,000 for the rent, $2,000 for the daycare. And now if you have a mortgage, now that goes to over $2,000. Now you're looking at $3,000, maybe $4,000, who knows, right? So now you're looking at $6,000 a month just between the mortgage and the actual daycare for one child. Now that don't mean that we ain't talking about food yet. We ain't talking about clothing. We ain't talking about diapers. We're not talking about car insurance. None of those other expenses. And do you see why you can see most relationships failing? And then people become house poor. They end up having all the debt. And this explains why a lot of families, married couples, do not have the excess funds that they do unless you have a way to solve it. One of those ways is by having an actual business. It's not the only way, it's one of the ways. And the only reason why when I say business is because the business allows you to make money while you are actually working a 9-to-5 job. That's how I started. That's what I continue to do. And people say, well, why do you still work a 9-to-5 job if you got good money? Because benefits cost more than anything else that I've ever experienced. The benefits healthcare will always be your biggest expense unless you are single and absolutely healthy and tip-top shape. And I'm not talking about like physical shape. I'm talking about like your actual hemodynamic body is in shape. Blood pressure, cholesterol, you don't have any valve, any issues, no knee replacements, you don't take insulin, nothing like that. The asthma can sit you down. I have asthma. I wear a CPAP at night. You have incurred costs just for being human. Now the baby gets sick, somebody got to take off, right? Now you can't take the kid to daycare, but you got to still pay the daycare. Don't matter. They can't go, you still pay. Now you got to miss work. But then now you got your occurrence happening, right? Everybody's got, now that the job's going to still ding you on an occurrence for being out sick, even though you're not sick, your baby's sick. So now you're using up PTO if you got it, or sick leave, sick time. And that don't pay overtime differential if you got that. So you're losing money because don't forget that $6,000 is still going to keep hawking on your ass. Now you're stressed out. Then you're eating. You want to eat healthy or you want to eat on an affordable budget? Well, that means you're going to have to make some concessions over eating healthy all the time. Now you're getting, $2 macaroni. You're not getting filet mignon. You're getting, whatever kind of steak you can get on sale, chef special, about to expire. You're going to Walmart to shop for your foods. Nothing wrong with Walmart, but you're not living off the excesses of life. And the only people that forfeit that are people that decide to use credit and go into debt in order to be able to afford it. So again, we're going to talk about where do you build wealth at? You can't. Where do you build savings at? You can't. Where do you have your child's future savings, any generational wealth? You can't. Because again, you have not addressed your income. Your income needs to go in velocity to your demands, to these expenditures that you plan on adding on. You add children, you add an expense. Because what ends up happening is when a woman has children, 9 times out of 10, she wants more in life than she did when she was just a single woman than when she's a mother. The kids got to have their own room. They got to have clothes. And believe me, kids grow quicker than you think. They grow like asparagus. 1 minute they're wearing a size 5, next minute they're wearing a size 8. Then you buy a size 8, 1 month later the foot grows. Now it's in a 9. Now you got to go back out and buy shoes because you just bought shoes. You want your kids to play sport? Your dad was in football, baseball, soccer. You want your kid to be a sport person like you? Well, guess what? Cleats cost too. And you got to pay for cleats whenever they grow and then there. Then you got to pay for bats, gloves, hats, helmets. They all keep on growing. They get a bigger head, you need a bigger helmet. And you got to keep paying until they hopefully get a job and get out of the house. Oh, and don't worry about it. Now you got a car coming up, right? Because they're going to drive. What about them school dances, right? Daughter wants a dress. Son's going to play football. Now they got to go to a prom or school dance. Now they need a car. Now you're paying that. So now you got your car, her car. Don't forget, wife wants a new car. Now you got a baby. Now we need a bigger car. Now you need a minivan. Next thing you know, you got to give up your Mustang GT for now the Odyssey. Now you driving the minivan so she can be comfortable. All these expenses keep coming because you didn't plan. You didn't think about it. You didn't set anything up to be successful. You didn't think about a business. You too busy watching Netflix and chilling. And my whole point is like this, I said before. When do you get to the business part of your life? When do you conduct business in your life and make sure that you're preparing your life? The problem is everybody's ready to sit down when they should get up and get to work. Even when they go to work, people are ready to sit down. You ever go to work and you see that? When you get to work, somebody already trying to sit down and take a break the second they get to work. And again, you want in your life, but you don't have the people, you're not surrounding yourself with the people who want it in life. You're not looking and vetting people based upon, do they have the work ethic? Do they have the business acumen? Are they looking to build? How do we address these issues? You're worried about dating a girl because she looks pretty, beautiful, but you're not talking to her and saying, hey, what are we going to do about money for this? You want how many kids? Okay, now how do we fund that? How do we support that? I don't know. You got to work. I want a man, 9 times out of 10, what men don't understand is still, most women still want to be taken care of on some level, no matter how independent they are. I've never heard a woman be like, well, I want a man so he can stay home and take care of the kids. You don't hear that on a whole, as a whole. And men don't prepare for that. They just kind of go through life like, well, I'll just figure it out. And that is the stupidest thing you could ever do. You already have all this anecdotal evidence that is out there about relationships and marriage to figure out why these marriages are breaking down. And the one thing people think is that it's going to be different for me. I was talking to one nurse, one girl, she's like, well, marriage is based on love and this and that. I told her, man, you don't even live with your guy. Of course you love him. I would love my girl too if I didn't see her every day. But when you see each other every day, you don't have anything to talk about. Not the same way you do when you are gone. You don't see each other. You see each other 3 times in a week. Stuff happens. When I come home, the only thing that's different from when my wife left me, when I left her at 6:30 p.m. yesterday till 7:30 or 8 o'clock a.m. the next day is what happened at work. And I mean, between getting the kids ready for camp, breakfast, the baby's crying with 3 kids, there ain't a whole lot of time. You got to give a quick report. How was work? Good. this person, that. And sometimes they don't even want to know. Most of the time, I don't even want to tell them. And it's not telling about patience. It's about like things that happen during the night. So either you're going to let off some steam, vent, but it doesn't really go anywhere. You don't really converse. And then you spend the day with the person. So there's nothing new to talk about when I'm sitting around next to your ass all day. So they think that this life is supposed to be, no, what it becomes is repetitious. And we do not prepare for the life we want. You need to find a way, whether it's one job, two jobs. Before you get into that relationship, you need to ask some good questions about, hey, how do we solve for X? X is when you ask, you say, I want this. How do we pay for it? How do we pay for it when my income is this way, your income is that way, and this is going to be a new expense for us. This expense is going to cost roundabout this much per month on an average, but everybody wants to do it once the expense gets there. It's too late then. It's way too late. You need to plan for the marriage you want, for the life you want, while you do not have it. You need to start a business, get another stream of income, build multiple streams of income, and you need to be more selective in your choosing. Even as a woman, you need to be more selective in your choosing for the men that you want. Because in order for you to not, again, you want to be in a relationship, but you got to pick a person that is worthy of relationship, not just faithful, not just a person that can sit there and say, hey, I've got nice looks, I got a good set of hair. You need to pick somebody who actually can build with you financially in life to make sure that when that lifestyle creep comes, when it becomes the new house, the new car, you don't even got to get a brand new fancy car. Cars still, the basic, a Ford Focus costs way more than it did 5 years ago. You just talk about a Ford Focus. Used cars cost more than it did 5 years ago. So that tells you that you don't even got to buy a luxury car to end up paying increased expenses. And lifestyle creep will catch up to you one way or the other. The whole point is, did you plan for it? Did you prepare for it? And if you don't plan or prepare, well, guess what? Piss poor planning leads to piss poor outcomes. You have to plan ahead. And you got to wait to be with someone who actually can be on task and show you that, hey, they're either about your plan or they got a better plan, or their plan, they got a plan too. And all of it has to work. If it doesn't work, then you shouldn't do it. I'm going to have to do a part 2 to this because I could go on for about an hour on this subject. But I want to give you this part right now, because if you think that you're going to have a child, yes, it's going to be all fun and good for the first 6 months. After the 6 months, you're going to be back to work dealing with the expenses. Diapers are expensive, and a baby goes through maybe 8 to 10 diapers a day. Don't forget about the beginning months. And as they get bigger, that happens. Then you got to potty train. Then there's laundry. Then there's clothes. And from about 2 till about 12, you're going to be changing clothes and buying new clothes. Like it's going out of style, unless you're getting hand-me-downs. It's going to happen. You have to be prepared for it. And if you don't prepare, you're going to be like most of the people out there that you see are stuck in relationships, not winning financially, and they see every little bit of their life slipping away. It is not that relationships are bad. It is not that marriage are bad. It is not that women are bad. The problem is you plan bad. Your choosing is bad because you don't plan, you don't prepare, and you're not selective in what you need to accomplish. You don't spend time planning for your future to make sure people can fit into it and can work well with you. Bill Davis, Ancestry Lands. Man, that brother walking on his tiptoes, running on his tiptoes, like he got to take a dump. Any which way, I hope you watched this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned some. Stay tuned for part 2. We will continue on with this and talk about some of the expenses. I will go through some of my own budget to tell you like what a family of 5 costs when you want to eat the things that we eat. We eat organic. There's meats, things like that. I'm actually going to go through my own household budget to show you things that we spend, and we do not excess spend a lot. But you want tutoring, you want smart kids, you want swim lessons, you want violin lessons. I'm going to break down what it comes to. So make sure you stay tuned. We'll have part 2 coming up. All right. Phil Davis, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace. That's it, folks. You can go to Ancestry Lands to start owning property today with payments starting at $250 a month, no credit checks, and owning land has never been easier. It's time to build your land portfolio one property at a time. We help you to get dollars from dirt and build generational wealth by owning small plots of affordable vacant land. Contact us to learn more. Oh, and speaking of dollars from dirt, I also wrote a book about investing in land for you readers out there. My book, Getting Dollars from Dirt, A Beginner's Guide to Vacant Land Investing, is on Amazon. The link is in the description section below. Inside, you'll learn simple, easy to read insights that will have you understanding why you should own land today. For more tips and tricks, subscribe for updates, comment below, and let us know what you enjoyed about this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
And remember, like and subscribe.